going on? What's going on, everybody?
What's going on?
Man, we found him again 2 weeks in a row.
Nah,
Cousin Daryl is back.
yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Sounding good, looking good. I like the hat, brother. I like that
Oh,
hat.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I like that hat. I like that hat.
It's my
So
tribute to
thank
D'Angelo hat.
what's that?
It's my tribute to D'Angelo hat.
Okay, okay. Well, we got a lot to talk about. Um and it's with the untimely passing of one of our heroes. We'll get to that shortly. We're going to get right into it. Really, we're just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you first time checking out the show, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and share this podcast where you enjoy your podcast, especially on YouTube. We're trying to get the YouTube up. So tell your young musician friends we are here to share our our wealth of knowledge about why the heck we're doing this. But
Right.
it's a labor of love. But hey, man, we also have figured out a way to make a living, which is what it's all about. So we have a lot of knowledge to share, so share this show. Tell your young guys and your old guys, because we do have a lot of older fans as well. So we want to thank everybody that has been supporting us, and we look forward to many more episodes. As you can see, my trusty partner in crime, Mr. Tyrone Jackson, is still on hiatus. Maybe he's going to become the new cousin Daryl, man. We can't find you. Now we can't find him. And shortly you won't be able to find me. So
Oh, man.
it's just going to be a round robin of, wait a minute, where's the other guy? Where is the other guy? So we're getting into, to some busy months here at the end of the season, as we always do. So we will try to be as consistent as we can, but there might be a Tuesday or two that we are not here with you, but we'll try to make it up. So we'll just plug a little bit. We have a QR code for our Latin percussion introduction to Latin rhythms part 2 that will be coming up in November, and that QR code sitting up in their corner will take you straight to the website where you can get tickets. So it's going to be cool. I know we got a lot of dancers coming out this time. I think Brian is going to be one of the dancers for this. He's a very, very good salsa dancer. So if you want to see Mr. Falgu behind the scenes, if you want to see him shake the hips, this would be a good opportunity to do that. So but yeah, so that's going to be November 2nd, and that's going to be cool. Me and Mr. Frankie Quinones, and shout out to the Quinones family. They lost a prominent member of their family here in the last couple of weeks. Also, my man Joey's mother, Joey Gonzalez's mother, passed away. So please keep them in your prayers, and send them all the good blessings. So yeah, man, I think we're just gonna kind of get into it tonight. We're gonna talk about Mr. Archer, also known as D'Angelo, and I have I guess I'm the old guy sometimes now in the room. So I was on this guy before he broke. I was in a band where our manager was working for Columbia Records at the time. And if you're we're in the record industry, you would get promotional stuff. You would get promotional CDs, and you get that stuff ahead of time. So I was able to get his Brown Sugar, the first record, which we'll talk about. But I got Brown Sugar ahead of time. I got the Jeff Buckley Grace record ahead of time. And I got Dion Ferris's Wild Seed, Wild Flower. I think that was her first solo record. And of course, Dion was in Arrested Development, so everybody was kind of familiar with her. But this cat D'Angelo, man, he came on the scene. I was like, what is this? What is this? Because at the time, uh, it was still very, black radio in particular. It was still very sort of, it was more Boys to Men, Casey and JoJo. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of hazy with, Mary J. Blige, great artist, but nothing that
Yeah.
sounded like D'Angelo. Michelle Cello was out there, and she was kind of doing her thing. So you were starting to see, and I think Maxwell hit after D'Angelo, right? That first record.
Right.
So Maxwell hadn't even come out yet. But you were starting to see this a little bit of a throwback to the 70s. Raphael Sadiq was still in Tony at the time. So he had Jeanne, but that wasn't what this was, man.
It was like a precursor to it, a little bit.
A little bit, but this cat was coming out with the Fender Rhodes. He was coming out with the cornrows. He was coming out. It was like, whoa. So, I remember seeing the video for Brown Sugar, man, and it was right up my alley, because I was like, any disciple of Prince is right up my alley. So he was the sort of the first one that I saw, even though he was coming from a little bit more of a hip hop perspective. He was blending the hip hop grooves with the analog, with the Rhodes and with the Hammond organ, and that whole sort of coming out of church, but still, but bringing it with the real soul. And it sort of, he planted a flag, dude. He planted a flag.
Oh,
and and it really, I think, it sort of spawned this whole sort of movement of people getting back to, not that, I mean, because there were still some great singers in that era, but like I said, he just was such a throwback to the old soul,
Right.
the way he phrased, the way he sounded, the way he looked. So it was really something, man. And I saw the tour, the Brown Sugar tour. He played at Variety Playhouse. Myself, I was just talking to my brother Jim Rogers, who was the guy I was in the band with. We were just talking today. We had just got back in touch after 25 years over the past, like, maybe couple of months. But we talked today. We were just talking, and I was like, man, D'Angelo passed. And the first thing he brought up was, man, do you remember when we saw him in Little 5 Points at Variety Playhouse? I was like,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
So you're a little bit younger. You're more the influence of the second record. We're going to talk about, obviously, he broke the internet with, I don't want to say the internet, but he changed music with the second record. But do you remember anything about the first record, Daryl? Did you ever check that out, or was Voodoo your introduction? Okay.
No, Voodoo was
okay.
Yeah, like, I've always been drawn to, like, jazz and hip hop mixed together.
Right.
So, like, the first thing that I remember as far as jazz and hip hop being mixed together was actually Stetsasonic.
Yeah.
They had the song All That Jazz. And then I remember Tribe Called Quest. Well, before Tribe Called Quest, it was Gangstar.
Right.
And they actually did this song called Manifest, and that it had I've talked about this before. It had the Night in Tunisia bass line.
Right.
The thing about Stetsasonic is Q-Tip, like, had checked out Stetsasonic and found out who engineered that, who was Bob Power, right? And so Bob Power worked with Tribe on their first, I think their first 3 albums. And then, Bob Power eventually became D'Angelo's engineer on Brown Sugar. I've checked out Tribe when I was a kid. You know, like I mean, I was into it, and then you know, Diggable Planets came along
Right.
with cool, cool like that.
Cool
So
like
I
that,
was
right?
always on that jazz sound. The Roots too, like '94 when it came.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Organics.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
Organics, but I knew Do You Want More around like '95. And then
Right.
here comes D'Angelo. You
Right.
know, the organ, the
No.
the way he was singing, it was all
Right.
reminiscent of something that we've heard before, but it wasn't current at the time because, like you said, Boyz II Men and H Town and Shy
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
all of those R&B groups, R. Kelly too. They were
Right.
all doing like what was the current R&B sound that came out of New Jack Swing, and it
Right.
kind of progressed in the early '90s. And then here comes D'Angelo with something completely, this jazzy sound. Everybody, I remember in '95, '96, everywhere I went, I was hearing Brown Sugar. And Lady, of course, was real big. Like that was just,
Yeah.
I sensed something special, about him, but I didn't really know where it was going.
Right.
I was in college. That's when I was a junior in college. That's when Voodoo came out, and
Okay.
man, like that
Yeah,
changed my life.
we'll save that one.
Right.
We'll save that one. So,
Right.
what was so cool about Brown Sugar was, to me, it was that stripped down approach. It was, organ or the Rhodes, but mostly, but like you said, the organ, bass, drums, vocal. I can't remember if there is some guitar on Brown Sugar as well.
Yeah. He had in Sonic ASR 10 keyboard sampler.
Okay.
That's what he did a lot of Brown Sugar on the album. And he had like his keyboard sounds that he would use. And that bass sound that's on Brown Sugar. That's also
that's keyboard. That's a keyboard.
Yeah. I mean, he did have a lot of basses on Brown Sugar, but a lot of that stuff is that ASR 10.
So because he had programmed. A lot of that stuff was demos, right? Wasn't that just the demos, and then they redid some of the stuff, or for Brown Sugar, or was that the actual demos?
I believe so. I'm not totally certain, but I believe it started out with the ASR 10, and then they progressed, went in the studio, and filled out the record and everything.
Let's see. I saw Tony. It had to be 93 or 94. They were opening up for Janet. This is probably this had to be like 93, 94, something like that. And so I had checked out Tony, and they were kind of a little bit of Jackson 5. They were kind of trying to bring that 60s 70s thing back as well, using but still kind of being current, but the way they were singing and the grooves and stuff. So that was my first sort of introduction, obviously, into Sadiq. And then Brown Sugar, though, I know he co-wrote Lady is co-written by Raphael Sadiq, and I think there might be one other track on there that's co-written by him as well. But we used to dissect that record, man. I tell you, man, the two tunes that we used to just freak out on was one of them, I can't say the whole title, which is we'll just say SDMF. We'll say SDMF.
Yeah.
Not only because of just the vibe of that track, but the jazz, sort of like little jazz section that's in that track. And he would go into the swing and then come back and break it back down to to the hip hop thing. So that was, I thought, was like, wow, man. And then of course, the lyric and what the lyric represents, the story that he's telling. He was just an old soul. You could tell he had seen some things. But man, Lady, man, was the one where because Sadiq is playing bass and guitar on that track. So to listen to those parts, man, I mean, that would be great. We should get the stems for that track and take it apart, because it's something, bro. Sadiq's part, the guitar part, the melodic part that he plays, and then the way that the bass moves against that, it's like, you know, they were setting themselves up for to be reckoned with, in my opinion, man, as far as like what was going on musically. So you know, so yeah, so Brown, I mean, that was a hell of an introduction, man, to D'Angelo's career.
Yeah, I have a big binder around here somewhere, but I collected, like, around the time with Voodoo, I collected all of the interviews that he had, and I remember him talking about, like, I think it was a friend or somebody that had like a huge record collection, and like that's where he went and studied. Like, he actually studied all of this music from the 70s and 60s, and pretty much got his education as far as not just learning how to sing, but his keyboard skills were, he could kill on the keyboard, and he listened to people like the Meters and all of the funk stuff, and he knew the stories, like how it went from James Brown to George Clinton, and the all of that history that was there. He studied it, and like was a student of the music.
Absolutely.
Which you don't see now a lot of days.
Absolutely.
That's the thing about him. It's like he encompassed so much of the history of like just black music in America. It wasn't just the church. It was jazz. It was R&B. It was the old school R&B. It was the quartet style that he mastered, and it was the it was the rock influence that he had. The funk influence, the soul influence. Like, he encompassed all of that and was a real student of the music, and it showed in a way that not to diss anybody else, because like one of his heroes were Casey and JoJo, because I know he had known about Casey and JoJo, like they're from Virginia, where and he had known about Casey and JoJo when they were kids. Like, he really admired them and knew their history as well. And so Jodeci had come out slightly before him, but when he came out, he just really was he had all of that stuff, mastered.
Yeah. And give Casey and JoJo props, man, because they were also students of a lot of great soul music, soul singers. I mean, Bobby Womack and the Spinners, and of course Marvin Gaye and all of that stuff. So it's all kind of woven in there. It was just trying to, that was they were trying to still be relevant, because you had to be on the radio at that time. Like, you had to have some commercial appeal, right? So so it was a lot different with because guys were, most of those records aren't live musicians. It's like it's drum machine, it's programming, but they were trying to layer the soul thing kind of on top of that. So that's another subject for another day. But when you talk about being a student, man, as we get into in a couple minutes here, we'll start talking about the real true groundbreaking record. But the stories that Amir would tell, Questlove would tell about how much listening they would do. They would just be hours. They would get they had access. They would get the Earth, Wind and Fire concerts, Prince concerts, Marvin Gaye, and they would just endlessly for hours study and listen and watch this stuff. D was like pretty prolific in that way, in terms of absorbing and watching those concerts from the 70s, which you can clearly see how the influence that Earth, Wind and Fire had, the size of the band that had on the Vanguard. It was the same sort of presentation. You can see plain as day how all of that stuff influenced him. And I believe only when you are a student of that depth can you come up with something that, of course, that is going to honor your predecessors, but something that you can call your own, which is what they did. They found the right engineer in Russell Alviado. He found the right partner in Questlove. And really those three, man. And then obviously enter Pino Palladino, which we completely. I mean, it's just like, how do you even come up with the formula like that, man? That's just God-given. Like it's meant to be. Like, it's not something you can go and shop for. You can't get on the phone and call that you can't call that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know a lot of bad cats and you could call whoever but to have that kind of team and that kind of chemistry, man. And then Roy Hargrove. And I mean, the list is, come on, man. And
Dilla, because even though he wasn't involved on the making of Voodoo,
the influence,
the influence, the lineage there, because Tribe produced their first 3 albums, and then the next, I think, 2 albums, that was Dilla that produced that. And Bob Power was working with them at the time. Then Bob Power transitioned to working with D'Angelo on Brown Sugar. But at the same time, Russell Elevado came in on Brown Sugar, and they D'Angelo had some kind of creative differences on Brown Sugar with Bob Power, because Bob Power has this kind of more clean type of sound, and Russell Elevado goes for that kind of dirtier, grittier sound. So
great analog all day long, man. And 24 track.
Yeah, them coming together pointed them, and they were kind of precursor in Voodoo on Brown Sugar. So that school of thought started on Brown Sugar. It just didn't come up with Voodoo. And then the thing that melded Questlove and D'Angelo together was the Dilla thing. The way Dilla was doing with his time, and that kind of behind the beat thing, they both bonded on that. And they came together and they were like, okay, we're going to do this. And the backdrop was like this hip hop Dilla sound, jazzy hip hop Dilla sound. You know what I'm saying? That kind of was like the undercurrent that eventually became Voodoo. So it's like the connections there are crazy between, how it all came together and the influences that brought together Voodoo.
Yeah. I read an article, years ago of D talking about his connection with Questlove. And there was one thing that always stuck with me about what he said. He said, man, we're both minimalists.
Yeah.
He said, we're both minimalists. And I thought, man, I wish there were more minimalists in the world,
Yeah.
Because that really just, I don't know, man, that kind of blew my mind. Like, when I started really kind of thinking about that, I was like, yeah, man, it's not, they're more about space than anything else, and so yeah. But Brian brought up a good point in the private chat of they used to check out a lot of Soul Train episodes. A lot of history, man. It's all, it's not by accident. It's not by accident when people, I think, have a misconception and they want to anoint the cat. Oh, he's a genius. Oh, it's everything is God-given. It's like, not really. It's like they just studied. Prince has said that time and time again. He's like, I'm not the most talented person. He said, I just outworked everybody. That was what
Wow.
I did. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not by accident, man. That when you chase your vision and you stick with what you stick with what you believe, and also you find like-minded people. We've talked about that too, Dare. You have to have like-minded people
Mhm.
that around, you know, that feel the same way about certain things and that you do, man. And that just makes, you know, makes everything, you know, a lot more powerful when you find the right. So I would say, oh boy, the if you want to look at the you know, the engine of what he was about. I mean, Sadiq is in there, but definitely Questlove, Russell,
Pino,
Pino, Roy. I
guitar
mean,
player.
Roy. What about Roy? I mean, we
Oh,
haven't even
yeah.
talked about Roy.
And
You know, we'll talk.
what is it, Jesse Lee Johnson or the guitar
Jeff Lee
player?
Johnson. Jeff Lee
Jeff Lee
Johnson.
Johnson. I'm sorry.
And
Yeah.
then Jesse Johnson later. Jesse Johnson, who comes out of the Prince camp, is playing on the Voodoo tour as well as the Black Messiah tour, with along with Isaiah Sharkey, and maybe there was another guitar. There 3 guitar players, I think. But yeah, it's like, man, it's Charlie Hunter. I mean, dude, it's like it's a blueprint of no, not young guys. What you can't necessarily do that, but
yeah,
it's about finding the right seeds for your soil. You know, it's not about, oh, I got this guy because he's got the bad cat with the most likes on Instagram. You know,
right.
it has nothing to do with that stuff. So,
Right.
but man, all right, let's transition to the beast, man, and talk about Voodoo a little bit. Which, you know, again, I got Voodoo super early, man. I may not have gotten this one. I didn't get this one ahead of time, but I was pretty close to the day it dropped. I can't remember exactly, but I remember I was working in a corporate band and we were just doing like weddings and corporate stuff like around the Southeast. Shout out to Rodney Flash Epps, man, who was the leader of that band, bass player. But we had a bus, right? And people would bring music, you know, whatever music you were listening to or whatever. And I remember bringing Voodoo on the bus, and we listened to it from top to bottom on a trip, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to call out any names, but when that record kicks off, because there's this Santeria thing that happens in the beginning, and it's you're hearing sort of the Santeria ceremony,
right?
And then the tape, you hear the tape come in, and you hear Quest, and you hear that clap, 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 womp, 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 and you hear that, man. And dude, I was like, what is about to go down with this?
Yeah, man.
Bro, and dude, and that whole fade up, man, of Player, I still is one of the most mesmerizing musical moments I've ever experienced in my life. And then when Pino Palladino comes in, dude,
right,
and Roy comes in with those lines,
right,
I said, oh, they're setting the bar now. He's setting the bar. There's nothing this funky out right now.
Man,
come on, dude. I mean, man, I could go on and on, but I want to hear. And so just to finish my story, though, the other cats on the bus, they didn't get it. I could tell they were like they didn't get it.
Yeah,
there was one cat, and he said, man, it sounded like they went in the basement to do this. That was his it was kind of a compliment, but it was the rest of them because everybody else was into more the slick stuff, man. I was like, I don't know what you guys are listening to, but if you can't hear this, you can't hear black music at all. Like, period.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So, you know, but man, what was your do you remember the first time you heard it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was at Jackson State, and in Jackson at the time they had this chain called Bebop Records.
Okay.
And David Banner, the rapper, he worked in Bebop. So yeah, I used to go in there like every other day looking, and I remember the day, like, you know, I used to go over to the R&B section, just kind of look through it. I would say, you know, see like Nubians and all these other people. Man, I saw that Voodoo album, and I was just like, D'Angelo, like, oh man, I was just like, I gotta get this, you know.
Right.
Man, I took that. I waited till I got home. You know, I drove home, got home. I put it in my stereo system, and man, like from that day, I listened to that album every day for a whole year straight. I'm talking about like every single day. And the thing about it, when you have an album like that, I'm constantly learning new stuff from it every time I hear it, like every time I listen to it. It's like it took me a long time to just really absorb that whole thing, because even though it's subtle, there is so much to how that album was crafted. And at the same time, you know, it was drastically different from anything. I mean, this was a throwback album that updated the sound quality. That album inspired everything as far as me when it comes to like my studio stuff and, you know, my engineering, you know, background that I have now. Like that all was sparked by that album, because like there's so much to talk about in terms of how it was put together. And so yeah, I listened to it like I remember like the next year, I was like, yo, I bought this album on this day, and I've listened to this every single day, you know, for an entire year. Right. And I was like, eventually I'm gonna have to like put this down. But it was just, for me, it was that impactful. It was, you know, you got like different schools within this album. You can study the way the bass was played. You can study the way the drums were mic'd, and you can study the mixing. You can study the mastering of it. You can study D'Angelo's vocals. You can study the processing, the different processing. You can study the microphones that were used, the microphone technique. Everything like had like just these, you know, over and over again lessons that I just had to like, you know, I studied the album. Like I said, I have a binder around here of just notes that I was taking and things that I was just studying about it. And it sparked me to get in touch with Russell Elevato at some point, and, you know, talk to him about how, you know, what the way things were done, what he did, what his approach was. And yeah, it's and at the same time, there were people that were like, at that point, R. Kelly was like God as far as R&B. So it was a lot of people that were just expecting a certain sound. Like I remember Questlove said he let what's his name? The guy that Cindy Blackman, Lenny.
Oh,
Kravitz,
Carlos. Oh, Lenny Kravitz. Okay.
Yeah, Lenny Kravitz. Like he didn't get it. Like when they played it for him, he was just like, "Yo, man, you got to quantize these drums." And it's just the idea that quantization was required in 2000 to and it threw people off. That, you know, Questlove was not only not quantized, but he wasn't playing the same bass rhythm repetitively, you know, over and over again. He repetitively. It was playing a different, you know, kick all the way through, like just based off of like improv. And it's like that's something that people weren't used to at that point, which is ridiculous to me, because it was just like a decade prior that all this stuff, you know, like in the 70s Well, I mean, yeah, it was 2 decades, where the 70s, like
Yeah,
all
but
this stuff was
that's
boom.
a long man in black music. That's an eternity, man,
Yeah, that's
because
true. Yeah.
the changes that take place and just in even in contemporary music. I mean, you could probably say that for any uh just about any genre of music, but um I wasn't even hip to that. I didn't know anything about Jay Dilla at the time. I didn't know anything about like what that was. I just knew something that would like the something was about to take place on earth that I had never heard before. Even
Right.
though I had heard it before, right? I was familiar with the sound of what they were achieving because I had heard
Mhm.
that in so much of the music. I mean, going back to an album like the Band of Gypsies, man, and Jimi Hendrix. Like if
Mhm.
you like, there's so many records that they studied, man. I'm telling you, they studied some records, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
the album is recorded at Electric Ladyland. There is not that's not a coincidence. It's
Right.
not a
Right.
coincidence. He went
Mhm.
there for a reason, and when you have a purpose, when everything has a purpose like that, it doesn't mean that things don't have to be complex, because if they're complex and they have no purpose, it's useless, man. Everything is
Mhm.
useless. So, but when you talk about having such a purpose, which is what those cats had, we'll talk a little bit sonically. You touched on just sort of the schools of things that you can study kind of within that record. Questlove using a 26-inch bass drum. What black record do you know that you can't use a 26-inch bass drum on?
Right.
Like, you
Right.
know, but see, I'm a Led Zeppelin fan, so I know I know what that is. I know
Mhm.
what that represents. So it's like
Right.
there's so many different things, man. That's just on a whole that they were just on a whole nother level with this, and they took some chances, bruh. I mean, you have to. That's another thing is you can't just follow the norm, right?
Mhm.
And I don't want to go off on Lenny Kravitz, man, but look, Lenny Kravitz, as a man, I can sit there and say, Lenny Kravitz, he's a great looking cat. He got the whole looks and stuff down. He lucky he got that, because
Yeah.
everything else,
Oh, okay.
I and I tried to, man.
Yeah.
I tried to be Lenny's first record. See, Lenny's first record has a little bit of something that the D'Angelo records had, but he left that. It was
Mhm.
raw. It was unpredictable. It had some gospel stuff on it. It had funk. It was coming from Sly Stone, Jimi Hendrix. He had that, but he couldn't cultivate that into something of his own. So
Mhm.
everything just is regurgitated. Oh man, dude, that sounds like Curtis Mayfield. That sounds like this. That sounds like the Stones. It's not so it's like the D'Angelo thing is so different because there's so many things that are blended within that concept is what
Mhm.
makes it unique. Yes, it might have this, but then when you juxtapose something else with that unquantized drums, it completely gives it a different feel and a different sonic quality, man. And that's what
Mhm.
they just and then and they had the songs on that record, man. There was some great. It wasn't just some repetitive, three note thing that didn't go anywhere. It was like they took the blueprint of what hip hop in terms of some of the how the songs are structured, which is
Mhm.
kind of simplicity, and it is repetitive to a degree, but just like you said, you brought up a great point, man, where the bass and the drums aren't doing the same thing like you would normally
Right.
expect. Is there's Pino is doing, I don't know what he's doing. I still can't figure out how what he played on that record
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
But not only does it work, it's one of the baddest like bass player albums of all time. And what he's playing, it's like, man, this doesn't have anything to do with what is going on in this music right now. But how do you explain that, bro? Like, how can you? I mean, how do you explain that?
Man,
just imagine he just got the ear. I mean, he could just hear things that other cats can't hear. You know,
like Voodoo was built around, and that's where it goes back to like Dilla. It was built around like Questlove and D'Angelo I think they called it dirt. Like, but it was like it had to have like the dirt in it. You know what I'm saying? Like with Dilla, his time thing, I know where Dilla was inspired to like get that type of behind the beat sound. It was actually from this it was like a TV show or a movie in the 70s. I think Aunt Viv from the first Aunt Viv was in. I can't remember the name of it, but at the end they were like singing a song and they were clapping, and the clap kind of got off behind beat. And that was the whole thing that inspired Dilla. Like Dilla was hearing the sound, like the mess ups that you would hear, the subtle mistakes that you would hear in like recordings from the 70s and 60s. They loved that. They wanted that to be a part of it, like that natural thing that, you know, was missing at the time because everything was ruled by drum machines at a point. And they were, you know, going against the grain, wanting to bring back that raw, organic, you know, even if there's a mistake, let it fly, because the mistake was fly. You know what I'm saying? And keep that in there. And like that was the kind of energy. So like Pino coming in, you know, first of all, like, you know, he played the P bass, which to me is just like the one thing that I can say about like the album as a whole. Like when it comes to like the kick drums, the snares, the basses that were used, they were all reminiscent of something earlier that we had heard before. Like Al Smith with Al Green, the drummer Al Smith. You heard that in Voodoo. You heard like the fact that they took a ribbon microphone and put it, you know, relatively close to the snare, or use one mic on the kit, or use a few mics to get that, you know, like Stax Records sound. Like they were aware of that and wanted to bring that kind of essence into it. So somebody says it sounded like it was in a basement. It's like that was the point. Not necessarily that it was in a basement, but it was a kind of feel that you used to hear all the time, you know, in albums and stuff. And now in the 90s era, you have to have the reverb, you have to have the quantization, you have to have the you know, like synth basses and stuff. I mean, just all of these things, which are fine, there's no diss to it, but to get back to something that felt better, the soul, the grit, the dirt, all of those organic things that, you know, we were missing in music, that's what Voodoo provided. And I still like, I understand why people didn't get it. Some people didn't get it, but it's just like enough people got it to where it's just like, we know this is genius. Like this is enough. I think enough people got it to know, like, no, this is something special. Like all the people that really know something about music, they could listen to Voodoo and know this is something extraordinary. Like this is not just some cats, you know, playing around. Like that's what I think, you know.
I mean, you know, sonically, you know, let's talk a little bit more about the drums, because a lot of my favorite drum recordings, the drum sounds are horrible. Like, I mean, they wouldn't be, you know, they definitely wouldn't be anything close to like standard. Like what's the standard like now, where everything is like tune botted and perfect, you know, everything is tuned. You know, drummers are tuning their drums to a scale, yada yada yada, all this stuff, which is fine, man. But when I listen to you know, specifically like, you know, my favorite drum sounds are, you know, Diamond from the Ohio Players, you know, Andy Newmark on Sly's Fresh album, Gregor Rico from the earlier Sly records, some of the Stevie Wonder albums with Stevie playing drums, those drums on Inner Visions, the drums on Fulfilling This First Finale, you
Right.
know, I mean, and anything that James Gadsden played on, you know, that's like my home base. And so the drums naturally on it was like fruit for me, you know,
Right.
in terms of, you know, they might, but then they might throw a curveball because it might be like a piccolo snare instead of a deep snare. So you got the big 26-inch bass drum with the little pick. See, that's what I'm talking, man. But they knew what they were doing. It's like, okay, yeah, we could go deep snare on this, but we need something that's gonna cut to give it that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. See, this is the way I look at it. Like in hip hop, you know, prior to that, like in the 80s, you know, we started out with the 808 drum machine and the Linn drum. Right. You heard a lot of that in early hip hop up to like around 87. But around 87, Public Enemy, their sound started changing from that Run DMC like sound to them like sampling, you know, all of these, you know, these records. And those records have been in play, but they started using that stuff more and the sound changed. And the type of drum breaks that you had, that it's like they were sampling all of the best drum breaks and kind of compiling them into this one place. So you would hear an album and you would hear like a James Brown, you know, break. And all of these breaks, you know, became like presets, you know, almost in my mind. And so like Questlove he was a scientist around finding out what drum was that, what drum was that, what snare was that, and how do I pull this together to recreate this hip hop sound in a, you know, these drum breaks in a live way with real instruments. What mics did they use? How did, you know, did they put towels inside the drum, or did they put a wallet on the snare? All of that experimentation. And that was a big part of it. It was the experimentation that they had. They had 5 years working on Voodoo in the studio, so they really got to experiment and find out and build these instruments as presets. Like when I say that P bass, like you can't get that from a you know, like you can't. Well, I'm not a bass player, but I don't think you can get like the average church bass player now that plays with the Ibanez or, you know, whatever. I don't know whatever. But I'm saying there was a certain point where you couldn't get that type of bass sound unless you use a P bass or unless you use a jazz bass from the earlier a 1960s version, not a 1970s version. You know, with the right pickups and the Ampeg speaker cabinet that they use to mic it. All of that mattered. The LA2A compressor that was used on the mic that was on the bass cabinet that Pino was playing, all of that meant something, and it represented a certain kind of sound font, I would say. And putting these sounds together, like, you know, it was like, this is a tribute to, it was almost like a tribute album to the sound of you know, what we had heard already, but it was like updated for the year 2000, updated to match all of the R. Kelly stuff at the time without being that, you know, without trying to be anything near R. Kelly. It's just sonically it fit for the time. So you put R. Kelly on the radio, then you can put like D'Angelo Send It On right after that, and it blended well, but at the same time it was completely different, you know. And that's just like the mics that they used. That was important. Because it's just certain. You can put 10 different mics on the kick drum and you get 10 different kick drums. So it's like, which is the right mic? Which is the right mic combination that goes with this kick? And the fact that it was recorded on analog tape, that's also an important step in the process. All of those things, just, you know, it was like a tribute to how it was done back in the 60s and 70s. But it just showed me like this is the possibility that you can get out of live instruments. Like, you know, I had a student of mine when Amy Winehouse's album came out. It was like one of the songs that she had. He was like, what sample is that that she used? And I was like, that's a live drummer. He was like, what? And I was like, what you mean? I was like, that's a real drummer. He was like, how's a real drummer play like that? And I was just like, see, we were in the time period where now you got all these gospel drummers, no hate to them, but everybody's playing super loud.
Right.
You know, but back then they played super soft on the drums. That's the reason why they were able to get that type of sound. Like that sound on Al Green's Let's Stay Together.
Yeah.
That sound, that's not a drummer that's banging on the drums. He's playing very disciplined, you know, and it's all of that.
Well,
like,
look, man, you know, a lot of those guys, I hate to tell people this, but a lot of those guys back then were jazz drummers, man. So they were transitioning, so they had the dynamic thing down. It wasn't about cracking somebody's head open with a snare drum, man. Like,
exactly.
I mean, look, that there's a time and place, I think, for maybe that to kind of happen too, but most of the because man, there's countless videos now of everybody, so you can go study whoever. It's not like you had to get these bootleg VHS tapes and cassettes like we used to get, where you get a bootleg. The sound quality was so horrible, but you would listen to it anyway because you could hear through the crappy sound. You were listening intently and you were trying to figure out what was going on in the music, man. And so, but now you can, there's no excuse, dude. You can go and study endlessly. You can put in any of those great cats, Clyde Stubblefield, Jabo, James Gadson. It doesn't matter who it is. Diamond from the Ohio Players, Al Jackson. You can see what they were doing, and you can see the drums that they were using. There's some, one of the most famous videos is to watch some of the Bill Withers stuff with James Gadson, man, and to see how he's getting the sound out of that snare drum. It's like, it's not a rim shot. It's center snare drum right in the middle. And actually when he hits, he's digging the stick into the head as to not allow it to, he doesn't want the sound. He just wants that dead sound. So he figured out, this is how to get that. So, and when you like you said, like Questlove is such a, I mean, dude, he's diabolical when it comes to snare drums and finding, he stalked Steve Ferrone, man, for years to get, I want to say it's a Gretsch snare drum that all the Average White Band records were done on. It was done all, there's the same snare drum. When he joined the band, it's the same snare drum. It's a white, I want to say it's a Gretsch. I could be wrong if my drummer friends are around and know, but I think it's, but man, Steve Ferrone got he's like, Matt, here, just take it. Like, and Steve Ferrone ended up giving him that drum. He owns that drum that all those Average White Band records were done. He has the snare drum, man. He's got it,
That's crazy.
So it's like, that kind of like you could call it fandom, but it's obsessive when you're obsessed with those kinds of things, man. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I mean, if anybody's on Instagram, man, there's this cat, JJ Blair, who's a great rock producer and guitar player, but he does great STEM episodes, man, on his Instagram channel. And he did one, bro, on James Brown, The Payback. He got all the stems, and bro, they played the snare drum. And there's bro, it's ringing. Daryl, when I tell you it's ringing more than your doorbell, there is no. But go listen to it in the recording. It's that is so important for the way that snare drum sounds on that record. But there's no muffling, wide open. I'm talking about Steve Jordan wide open. Like nobody plays that. Nobody does that. Everybody's scared of the wide open snare drum, the ring. That thing is ringing from here to Africa, dude. And so when they played the stem of the snare, they're like, oh my, that thing is like open, just open and ringing. But then when you put it in the context of the track, what do you remember most about the Payback? The snare drum, dude. That snare drum.
Right.
You know, so Sonics, man, that's, I mean, you know, you're a Sonic guy, you're a Sonic head, you know, and it's like, you know, that's like a lost art, I think, you know, now. So looks like Brian has found Steve Ferrone had 2 signature snare drums. Well, those are the signature snares, so that's not the drum. Those are where, so those are the later drums that he was using as a studio musician. And then he had a Pearl. Actually, I brought that to one of your gigs, Daryl. You probably don't remember it, but I had the Steve Ferrone signature. It's like a deep, it's almost like a Black Beauty kind of drum. But I brought that on one gig that we did at Churchill, and you really dug it. I tuned it kind of low, but you really dug it. But those aren't the drums, Brian. That's not what the ones that he's talking about. But that's good information. Man, let's talk about a few of the tunes on Voodoo. I mean, of course, the one that gets on all the love, of course, is How Does It Feel? Even my mom, when that came out, my mother went ballistic. She's like, who is this boy? You know, kind of thing. And that's a Sadiq too. That's Sadiq, right? On that, right? And but man, Spanish Joint to me, man, broke all the rules. You got, you know, what I like to call it's like when cats don't really know, like, man, let's play some Latin stuff, man. Like, you know, and man, there's so many beautiful grooves that are out there when cats don't really know what they're supposed to be playing, and they're just playing from what they hear or what they think something is supposed to kind of sound like, and that's exactly what that track is. It's like, because it has clear like Afro-Cuban rules in it, like the way what Charlie Hunter's playing, the way the break is orchestrated. It's like, you know, but then it's like it's just some brothers in the basement trying to make some trying to figure something out, you know. But then what do, man? They go and they get the master Giovanni Hidalgo to play congas on the thing. It's like, you can't make this up, D. I mean, there's so many little things on that record, man, where it's like how they went and got Giovanni to play on this? Like the premier conga player in the world at the time. Like, it's like, man, this is insane. You know,
that was Charlie on the guitar.
That was Charlie on the guitar and the bass, right, on that one. And then Roy on horns and D, and that's it.
Another thing about that, not just on that song, but Voodoo was that album made that double I don't know if it's the
Yeah,
snare and side
yeah,
stitch,
right. The
but
double
the
hit,
flat,
right? The clap,
the double hit.
the flam crap. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep,
they did that on
yep,
Spanish Joint.
yep.
Yeah,
You're
he
right.
did that. Yeah, and it was just like that was kind of you know, like when you talk about like trying to play like a Latin kind of thing, it's like he synthesized it with you know like a funk kind of
I'd
thing.
never
It
heard it
worked.
before, man. I'd never heard it before. I mean, look, I was just like, man, what is man? What is he? Wait a second. That's because I'm thinking it's like a delay on the
Right.
on the. I'm thinking it's like a delay, and then I come to find out it's probably like I saw Lil Jon do it or something, and I was like, whoa, the cat is playing that. I had
Right.
no idea that was possible. I never
Yeah.
even thought about something like that. You
Yeah.
know, there is a
Yes.
great it's on YouTube. Charlie Hunter breaks down all of the stuff he played on Voodoo. I can't remember the channel, but
Oh,
if you
okay.
go look up on YouTube, anybody who's interested, and just put in Charlie Hunter, maybe put in Charlie Hunter D'Angelo,
Mm-hmm.
it will come up where he talks about, and I think Spanish Joint was just like it was like a jam. Like he just had this maybe that little idea or something like that, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like this concocted thing that took 6 months to do. They were just
Right.
jamming on stuff. And
Yeah.
you know, when the stars align, man, I tell you, man, it's something, you know.
Yeah. It's crazy. Robert Glasper and Bilal were roommates, and they went to school across the street from Electric Lady. So they would go in Electric Lady and listen to the album to us, and then Bilal, of course, spawned his thing coming out of that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and at the time, and another thing at the time, while Voodoo was being worked on, Common had an album Like Water for Chocolate, and Erica was working on her second album, Mama's
Gun.
Yeah. So at a certain times, those three would be in each studio in Electric Lady at the same time, and they were like going back and forth listening. So it was just like a school atmosphere that was going on with them. Like just that's it's just to be a fly on the wall. Like it's crazy. That all of the energy that went beside those, and for me, like it's those three albums. And I would include the Roots Things Fall Apart too, which came out in '99. But those 4 albums like really encompass that Russell Elevado period where they were all recording at Electric Ladyland, and they were they kind of have all like a similar sound. Like you can listen to them all back to back, and they all fit together well. So it's just, man, that was a special period, and it's just I was disappointed in like the reaction after that year. Like people just started, people were expecting more from D'Angelo, and he kind of like, dipped out in the scene. He had his thing that he was, I think, struggling with. Because I mean, just to bring that up, the whole image thing that came along with the Untitled video. That affected him. Like, he's trying to be a serious musician and be respected for this, for like being a student of Black music and carrying that torch. And he on stage and it's like women trying to tear his pants off, like, and I don't think he was ready for that, and I think
he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for it. It wasn't what he wanted. And when the record company sees dollar signs, man, there's so many lessons in this, man, because I always go back to Prince and how he manipulated everything, but he purposely was what he was in the beginning because of the shock value. He's like, man, I got to be so different. I feel like I have to be so different in order to get the people to listen to my music. They're not going to listen to my music if I just come out here in a t-shirt and jeans. They're not going to listen to it. So all of that was, that was thought of, man. But once he could leave that behind, he was out of that, man. He's like, I don't need to do this anymore. But for somebody like D'Angelo, man, you get caught. I just think Voodoo happened too soon. It happened too soon. And all of the quote unquote responsibility that comes with the success of a record like that. And, and it's, of course, it's just like, it's not enough for the music to be what it was. Now we have to have this sex image behind it. And you're going to have to be, cut and showing the abs and up there, yada, yada, yada. And man, that's a whole nother, like, how do you see so many people that have to go through that, man. And it just tears them apart, man. What else you going to do except for get into whatever you can to get your mind off of that? Like, people think that people fall into addiction or fall into, they don't, man, it's not because they want to. A lot of times it's like you're coping with so many other things that I don't want to get in all, but you know what I'm saying. It's like,
I mean, that's a part of it though. Like that's the part.
It's just, man, it was too much. It was too much, man. Too much.
It seems like it took a long time for him to really get past that, and but it's like that just shows. I mean, like, the dude he had the sex appeal image, but who he really was like a music nerd who, was just really into the music, what I'm saying, would rather be at home, just working stuff out and learning and just being fascinated, with music.
Right.
A real artist instead of somebody who, can kind of halfway sing and get up and put on a show and do all of the showy things to shock and,
And people forget, man, that those are the days where you had to tour behind your record. If it wasn't like you're putting out an album and then like you're just going to start working on the next one, or you're going to play a few shows. It's like you've got to go on this world tour,
right?
So that that's a whole nother, the performance angle. I felt like he got better at that, like especially later on with the Vanguard. Thought he was on fire, man. I thought, man, this cat has really I never saw him because when I saw him on the Brown Sugar tour, boy, he's behind the roads the whole time. He was sitting down behind the roads. He was not out front. It was behind the roads. He was singing and playing the roads, man. So that was something that he had to that he had to learn how to do. And I don't know.
It it took like training, like being in the gym, like really the whole, the way things were back then, where you had to do that, and a lot of artists were,
man, absolutely.
So
yeah, but I mean, we're connected to so many people, man, who we should probably do some other stuff on and bring somebody, because Jacques Schwartz-Bart, who's a good friend of mine, great sax, he played with D on the Voodoo tour, and has great stories of a lot of stuff. Russell obviously was on the Voodoo tour and stuff, and it'd be great to get firsthand perspective on some of this stuff. But we're gonna close it out with talking about Black Messiah, which wasn't my favorite out of the three. It took him a long time to do this record, and Quest has come out a little bit and talked about, he's dropped some. He's never really, I guess, given the whole story, but he's definitely, if you can read between the lines, he said enough to just like, it just took too long. There was, I don't know what the focus really was here. But and by the time it hit, man, there was so much anticipation because it had been what, 10, 11 years? How long was it between these records?
Man, it had been 12 years.
12 years. 12 years. Brian will find the exact the dates, but I was like
2014, 2015, I think, when this came out.
I was like, bro. I mean, 14 years.
Yeah.
Between 2000 and 2014. Now, the mind can do can go through a lot in 14 years.
Right.
And this is kind of where I kind of got a little bit upset with people because I was like, I don't think he's what you I know what y'all want him to be. You want him to be this prolific artist that puts a record out every year or two or three, but I said I just don't think that's who he is,
Yeah.
Because in order to kind of do that, it's a different muscle when you're when not only can you work like that, but it's a different thing, man. I just never saw him as like this producer of like, he's just gonna have this catalog of songs, so to speak,
Yeah.
So when this record came out, I was like, I was a little underwhelmed. I'm not gonna lie. I love. There was a couple things on it that I really. I mean, Till It's Done. I thought that was, that's probably my favorite on there. I thought 1,000 Deaths was a great sort of tribute to Sly in a way. I know they were listening to There's a Riot going on a lot for the concept for this record. And if people don't, there's a lot. I mean, that's a deep story about Sly Stone's. There's a Riot going on. There's a lot of history around that record and how that record was done, and of course the material on the record. But I know that record was a major influence in this Black Messiah. And if you go listen to Riot, you'll hear it. You'll be like, oh, okay, I kind of hear it. But to me, because not every record and not every song is going to be a hit. I just think you just keep swinging. That was the one thing I wanted him to do, is just keep swinging. I mean, you're not going. Voodoo is not going to happen. You may not ever have another Voodoo, but but I know there's some other great stuff in you. Just keep swinging, man. But that's I don't know all the ins and outs of his personal life, but what did you think about Black Messiah?
I mean, man, like I don't know. I mean, I thought it was cool. Like I didn't take to it as much as I took to Voodoo, like, because it's just, I listened to it and sonically I was kind of more expecting not Voodoo, but more of like the mixing standard that they had around it, like the way they made the instruments sound. It's like on Black Messiah, it sounded good. Like I checked it out, but I just didn't really at that point I was just kind of like, it wasn't any kind of shade or anything. It was just kind of like more like, okay, I've kind of moved on to like just being immersed in other things. But and one thing like, man, like there used to be this person, I don't know who this person was, but on the OK Player message boards back in the day, I used to be on there, and there was this character, this guy called Mr. Max, and all he would do was like troll talking about R. Kelly, and he called D'Angelo the Mumblo, right? Because he was saying that you can't really understand D'Angelo's words when he sings. And when Voodoo came out, like I was like, I had to read the lyrics along with him, with his
Right.
words. There's a lot of stuff I couldn't understand, but even that was an aesthetic to me that
Mhm.
like I appreciated, for a certain
Mhm.
thing. So when Black Messiah came out, there was this one, I think it's I can't remember the name of it, one of the songs on there, and I was just listening, and I was just like, man, like you really can't understand what he's saying,
Mm.
and it was just more of a like, man, I wish this would have been a little bit more polished towards what I was expecting. But it's not that it's bad. Like you know, just for me, Voodoo is gonna always be that one that's just like, man, I really, this was a significant part of like my development, my life as far as in a few places. Like, I really got a lot out of this, and Brown Sugar too, but mostly Voodoo. Like the rest of the stuff that he did, like after that, I respect it. There's no diss to it. I just didn't really, it was
Well,
I don't know. It was
yeah,
kind
no,
of hard.
yeah, and I don't think you need to apologize for that. I think every artist that has a Voodoo or has a Purple Rain or has a Songs in the Key of Life or has a,
Mm-hmm.
when you have that pinnacle record, man, um your next record is doomed
Yeah.
regardless
Yeah.
of how good it is or how good it isn't. It's not going to live up to whatever that was that happened on that that big record.
Mm-hmm.
And every it's man, it's undefeated, really. If you think about every artist and whatever their synonymous record is, um the next one is going to be doomed. I think the mistake he made, I mean, destiny is destiny. You can't say it's a mistake. It is what it is. It happened. But had he come out with that, you know, a little bit, or come out with a few things, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because again, what you're whether you're having writer's block, whatever it is, or whatever, you're if you're trying to collaborate with different people, come up with stuff, uh but you have to keep exercising that muscle, or it leaves you. And you can doubt. I mean, this is like the worst. I mean, I'm like one of the biggest offenders of this. Like, I'll come up with stuff, record it, put it, and then never put it out. And I know,
Mm-hmm.
so I know what that
Yeah.
syndrome is, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like it's never going to be good enough, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but the longer you wait on that, it's like,
Yeah. It kind of
time waits for no one, right? I
right.
mean, and you can go through the history. It's like you just got to keep swinging, man. You got to keep swinging, and that was just the one thing, maybe, man. And maybe he was kind of done with he was trying to wash away what Voodoo had created for him, from an image standpoint. I can totally understand that from an
Mm-hmm.
image standpoint and what people expect, because how can you recreate that, man? I would have been, man, this cat just like did a record of folk music or something. Anything would have been, because when you look at like what you really want to do is something the complete opposite of what you had already done. That was something
Mm-hmm.
that Prince was a master of, man. Like, Purple Rain came out,
Yeah.
Around the World in a Day sounded nothing like Purple Rain, even though Around the World in a Day was done before Purple Rain. A lot of people don't know that, but that record had already been done before Purple Rain hit. So Purple Rain was for that movie. That's what that music was for. It was for the music or for the movie. So, but what he was onto as an artist had nothing to do with that. But it's like, man, you're caught in no man's land. It's like, godly, I just sold 20 million records worldwide, and I got this hit, and everybody wants me to be this. So
want you to do it again and do it better this time.
Nope. I'm gonna cut my hair short. I'm gonna come out with a psychedelic sound. I'm gonna do something completely different. But that takes balls. That takes balls, and it takes you got to be able to. And I don't know what D'Angelo's relationship was with the record company, but in my opinion, I'm quite sure he had to buy. He must have for Voodoo, they must have been like, you can do whatever you want to do, and that's what he should have done. I don't know, man. I'm just giving my opinion on seeing artists go through that, having that big album, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I think if Voodoo happens 4 or 5 records in, right? Like he's sort of building up to that, and then all of a sudden it's like, here's the masterpiece. It's a little bit different than like second record, man. Bam, like game changer. Like, whoa, I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, is that?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I just to add, like, sometimes on a certain, you working on an album and it's like certain magic moments happen and magic things happen. It just coincidences and things align, and then you try to do that the next album, and it's like you can't really you can't replay it and like, okay, here's the magic and here's this and here's that, and now we have another Voodoo. It's like, nah, there were very certain that very specific circumstances that happened in this situation, and now you got something different, and
right,
like you're not necessarily gonna be able, and writer's block, just feeling uninspired, feeling some cats, it's it could be emotional, it can be, I mean, like I remember, like he had like he went to jail or something during that time, and he put out a mug shot and gained a lot of weight, and people were like, just being relentlessly how they are on the internet back then, and just being the subject of people's, they want to know your business, want to know who you with, and
absolutely, you're public domain. You're public domain,
right? And a lot of that, I don't know that it affected him, but I know he was. I definitely can see that he was dealing with something, like with the things that you were hearing around, and so it's just I don't think it's just a thing where you can just go make a magic album and then it's like, go do it again, and okay, give me another one. Like, it doesn't work that way. Life is going on while all of this is happening. So I mean, I feel blessed to have gotten what I did get from him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, like I mean, shoot. Back then, an album. I mean, back in the '70s, an album was like 6 songs. Voodoo was like 13. So it's almost as like put out a double project. I mean, so
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like Outkast to me, they were able to put out some good stuff, and I even think their last album, Idlewild, was a pretty good album, but just but the times were changing. It didn't keep up with what was new, and people were starting to look at them like, okay, y'all starting to get a little old now, like, and it's just like, that's crazy. Just timing might be another factor. Timing is a factor, and magic is a factor, and all of those things. So I don't hold anything against him. Like, you know, he's just living his life. You know, that's all I can say.
I mean, we'll close it out here. The effect of his music, though, in other genres. See, this is another. This separates the innovators from the pretenders to me. Is how much do you influence what other people do that are not in your genre? You know, and you heard, bro, the explosion of copy, all of a sudden the behind the beat thing, like this is becoming like the industry standard in a lot of, like, everybody, the effect that it had on jazz musicians,
Right.
that record, you know. I mean, dude, I would be like, because I guess, you know, somebody like you or me, or we're so sensitive because we've spent so much time with that record or with that sound, and so we can immediately detect when somebody else, which is fine, is pulling from that. But I began to hear things in a lot of different, I was like, wow, this cat he's influencing that sound, like that album has like really influenced the music industry, period.
Yeah.
Not just, you know, because, you know, but man, it still didn't, in my opinion, have the effect on Black music. I mean, I guess it in some levels it did, but in a lot of ways it didn't, man. Like it didn't spark, you know, like the commercial to like drop, man, let's drop the drum machine and let's get back to the roots of what we are supposed to do and what we're supposed to be about. That is super disappointing because you know, you hear its influence in so many different other ways and so many different other places, but yet I still feel like for a lot of man, it was like it did this, you know.
Yeah. I feel like he influenced things. Like, to me, like R. Kelly's Chocolate Factory. I feel like they took what he was doing, just saying, "Oh, okay, neo soul is popping now. All right, we're gonna do that, but we're gonna make it palatable for, you know, these people out here." You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's so bad, man.
We're gonna do that sound. Yeah, we'll do that too, but we're gonna give you our watered down version of it so we can sell some records. You know, and not get too far away from, you know, from just keeping it, you know what I'm trying to say.
I know exactly. But quickly, man, just, you know, I think the effect that it had on jazz musicians, I thought was really cool, because the group of, you know, I guess you could probably, and you know, you're included in that being, you know, that age. I mean, what year did your record come out?
2012. Yeah.
So, you know, you're like that album clearly changed your life, changed your direction. You know, you know, I mean, Diary. What year did Diary come out? Because
that was 2004.
2004,
yeah.
That out. I mean, it's undeniable to, you know, I mean, the amount of work that to try to get the sound that you wanted, to me, is evident, is real evident. I think you did it, man, on that record, you know. But so, you know, and then when you talk about, you know, Robert Glasper and, you know, all those people that came up. I mean, those Dilla and the all of those records, Roy Hargrove. I mean, the RH Factor. That's
right,
that's a direct.
Yeah.
You know,
Russell Alvarado did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, I really, if you haven't checked out any of this, you know, it's not for everybody. I mean, I remember a good friend of mine, man. It took him, he's a guitar player, because I was turning him on to Voodoo, and he was like, man, I can't hear this, man. I can't hear this. And then he said about a year later, I think he said he went back to it 2 or 3 times. And he said the third time that he went back to it, he went, oh, okay. Yeah. So that's another, I think, like, because some stuff, man, I mean, you could think of albums that, dude, I heard some stuff I heard the first time, I was like, nah, what is this? And then everybody's probably had that experience. And then you, for some reason, you go back to it, you know, and it's like, and then maybe that third of something, all of a sudden, it's like, you can hear it, because some things you're just not ready for, you know.
I mean, I think, you know, people are used to hearing what's popping at the time. So, right. You know, like all the early 80s up to like 85, 87, where they were using like the Linn drum and like the electronic drums, the stuff Michael Jackson was doing like on the Bad album and everything, like that was a sound. And then people slowly got used to like hearing hip hop infused stuff in the New Jack Swing era, and that was a sound. And then you had the early 90s with R&B, you know, with the, you know, Boys to Men. It was still a New Jack Swing, but it was coming out a new edition. You had a lineage there, and people are always used to hearing this certain type of sound. And we abandon these old sounds really quick. It's like when you hear something from the 70s, it's like, okay, that's good, but that's old. Like that's
old,
not
right?
That's
now,
old. You know, and in the early 80s with the gated sounds, you know, that was a whole era. And especially the 90s, that was like the drum machine hip hop, like you know, like it was very hip hop influenced.
It was the same beat. It was the same beat. The same beat was on every record, man.
Right. And it's like people were used to that. So when you come and bring something just drastically different, it's still relative, but it's drastically different, and people are just like, I don't get it. Some people are just listening. So now, like if I bring, man, I had a class, man, one time, and this was 2006, 2007. So I'm teaching class, and they were used to, at that point, like Jeezy was out, Lean With It, Rock With It. I think Soulja Boy had just come out. That's the dominant sound. I played Chameleon, Headhunters Chameleon, and all of my students busted out laughing. Like they were laughing at the bass line, and I'm just like, y'all are stupid. You know, I mean,
right.
But it was just like, what do you mean this is corny? Like, what do you like? Are you serious? Like, you know, but they were so much into the sound of that time that sounded like completely foreign. And you know, I was just like, all right, so it's just some people that's the way they are. Unless you feed them what their playlist sounds like, they're looking at you like you're crazy and this is old, this is corny, this is outdated, this is
I mean, it is a form of brainwashing, man. It is. It really is. You know, it's like I love I haven't watched his videos in a while, but Rick Beato was doing the Spotify top 10 or something, like he would do these Spotify top 10s.
Yeah.
And man, it would just be comical, man, that this is what people think is good. And you go, it's not necessarily that they think it's good. It's what they're used to. They're used to hearing whatever sound is being produced. And I think a lot of, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, you can sit here and you can nitpick any era. You can nitpick the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. There's always going to be some sort of like common thread as to what the sound is of the day is, right? So yeah, so it's like, we sitting here. We're, at this point we sound like get off my lawn, old guys, but it's all kind of relative, I guess, to the times, but the dumbing down, that's where it's the dumbing down of the human, of the being a human, and the dumbing down of just like where it's to the point to where it's like, man, you don't even have to be like to produce in the 80s or the 90s or to program, like you had to be good at what you were doing. Like there was no shortcuts, now it's like, it's just, man, it's there's so many shortcuts, and it's like anybody can do it,
Right.
So that's kind of like, I guess, where we're coming from. But
yeah,
listen, yeah, it is, man. Yeah. But man, listen, we're gonna wrap it up. And I thought there was an interesting comment. Mancini, if you still in here, Mancini says, I came in on Black Messiah. I kind of still like it more than Voodoo.
Yeah.
So I mean,
to each his own.
To each his own, and I think it's kind of we went pretty in depth on Voodoo and the connection that a lot of the connections that we made as to why we liked Voodoo, and I think there's some pretty there's some historical things in there. Not to say, Mancini, that you're not a historian or anything, but it's just a different set of rules than Messiah is. They're both. It's like it's a different set of rules for both of those records, But that's an interesting debate, because I do know people that really, really like Black Messiah. I tell you what, if you want to be absolutely blown away, and I wish I had gone to see him. That band and that tour was freaking killing, man. There's a great concert of there. I don't. Is it North Sea? Maybe they're at North Sea or something. I mean that.
Yeah.
Man, they are taking no prisoners, man.
Right.
It's like straight up Montreux. That's it. Yeah, the Montreux out, man, bro. They hanging with anybody. That band hangs with anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesse Johnson. I mean, it's unbelievable. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. Not sure what's going on next week. We may be off next week, but we'll see. But we will drop everybody a notice and let everybody know. But other than that, man, shout out to D and his family and his. There's a legacy there. I wish it was a bigger legacy. But man,
it's tough, man. Shout out to his son, Michael Archer, because he lost his mom and his dad just real close together. That's crazy.
Yeah, I just put two and two together, dude. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just thought about that, man.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I'm voting for future shows. I think we definitely got to break down some tracks. So we'll get some of the tunes and break down some of the truly, the genius teamwork, because that's, I mean, the genius teamwork of some of that stuff, man, and talk a little bit more about it. But all right, guys, thank you so much. Like I said, we may be off next week, I'm not sure, but we will definitely be back week after. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us on Local Musicians XP.